unfortunately, so many people go to their doctor with exactly what you're talking about, and they're told it's just normal getting older, or your labs are normal, there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, there's like an incredible amount of gaslighting that goes on, frankly, because of a lack of education about perimenopause and menopause, frankly, in conventional medicine. So hopefully it's starting to change, because there really is a groundswell of like demand for this. Finally, people are like, I'm not putting up with not getting treatment anymore and not having this addressed. But, it takes time.
Our generation is like the first generation that stood up and been like, I call bullshit.
That's exactly right. And it's overdue.
Okay, I feel cheated.
Alrighty then.
Guess what? I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow with my gynecologist. She's in trouble. You have just touched on so many things that nobody's ever asked me.
I know, it shouldn't be like that.
It's so frustrating. Welcome to Drinks with the Girls. Conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. I, for one, am super excited about this episode because I know I'm going to learn a lot, and listeners, I know you are too. We have with us today Dr. Tracy McCarthy, and she is a board-certified psychiatrist and an Institute of Functional Medicine certified physician. And she has over 2 decades of experience, so this is going to be good. So before we get into it, we're going to let you know what we're drinking. And listeners, you know what you're going to get with me, right? And so tonight, I'm drinking a Modelo out of the bottle with lime because
as
it's
God
that
intended.
Time of the day. Exactly. Lisa, my lovely co-host, what are you drinking?
Yes, lovely. Well, I'm drinking in my favorite mug, which is my giant Celestial Seasonings Tea Company mug with all these pretty things on it. And I am drinking some Yogi green tea. However, I've zhuzhed it up with, let's see if I can say it. It is a rum. It is walnut and fig rum from Stillwagon Distilleries, the Devil's Own.
Wow.
I know. My husband got this for me. I don't know what I was supposed to read into it. It looks like a keg of pirate rum. But I just decided, it's been so cold and icky out here that I was like, the thought of drinking something cold, I was like, I can't do it. So I got the tea out and I was like, this is boring. So here we go.
Have you noticed how when we talk about what we're drinking, it takes me like 2 seconds and it takes you like 2 minutes?
No, that is absolutely not true because a lot of times you have cool glasses and all that. I resemble that remark.
Okay. All right. So, Dr. McCarthy, before you really get into it and tell us who you are and what you do, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, not as exciting as what you ladies are drinking. I've just been finishing a glass of water here, but because I'm still in my office. And before that, I polished off a glass of Good Earth sweet and spicy tea,
Nice.
or mug, I should say. That's kind of a nice one for the dreary weather we're having right now.
Absolutely. And you know what? We take hydration very seriously, so no shame in showing up with a glass of water. So tell our listeners who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, so I'm Dr. Tracy McCarthy, and I'm a functional medicine physician, as you mentioned. And that means I work with people and partner with them really to uncover the hidden, unidentified causes of their chronic symptoms and to resolve those, which involves a lot of nutrition and lifestyle interventions, because those are some of the most powerful interventions, actually.
So what makes you different from a traditional doctor?
Well, sad to say, it really is about the root cause. Our current model of allopathic medicine, which is what I trained in, I'm MD, went to UC Davis School of Medicine, very much appreciate my training, but the real limitations there are the model is about primarily one that comes out of acute illness. So talking about it's usually about a single cause, like what bug causes this infection, right? And that's and then what's the silver bullet for that? That really comes out of the early 20th century and the sort of understanding of these different infectious diseases and like what caused tuberculosis, for example. And that actually works pretty well for acute illness, but terribly for chronic illness. We don't have a single cause for most chronic illness. And the problem is everyone's in this mindset of like looking for what's the cause of cancer, or what's the cause of autism. Well, you're not going to find the single cause. It's multifactorial in chronic illness always. You have to have a different paradigm. And you need to be looking for all these contributing factors that dysregulate the different systems in the body and understand how those connect. And then you need to look at all the different variables and factors that will change that. And you have to do multiple things to get results. And so it's a very different approach. It's a systems-based approach. It's still medicine. It's the medicine that's needed for chronic illness. And so, it involves these systems like communication in the body, which is neurotransmitters and hormones. It involves looking at our detoxification pathways, which are super important, our individual, unique genetics and our individuality from that. We all do things differently, detoxify a little differently, or, metabolize things differently. Our gut microbiomes play a huge role in that, the bacteria, in our gut. So having this sort of whole person view, and that actually also includes like our thoughts, our spirituality. These things all impact our health. So that's what's different is we're looking at the whole person. We're understanding these systems. We're appreciating that chronic conditions come from multiple variables and that we need to address multiple things to get someone better.
We recently had a breast cancer surgeon on we always do some episodes for breast cancer awareness. And one of the things that she was talking about, because we were like talking about prevention and like what's best.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, there's so much about your attitude, especially because a breast is a gland and it is responsive to that. And so she was talking a lot about how she can really trace outcomes from the minute she meets a patient in the room, their demeanor, like if they have people with them, that kind of a thing. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's so true.
It sounds like you have almost like Mary Poppins' bag where she keeps just like pulling all these things out, because not only do you have the traditional MD training, you have this other lens that you look through where you're looking at all these other things. And I can't help but think for women who are perimenopausal or menopausal, which is our listeners, that type of approach would be just so refreshing. Because I think a lot of times we go to our doctors and we're like, okay, we're having all these symptoms, the brain fog, the increased anxiety, maybe the depression, I know I just describe it like my synapses aren't firing like they used to. And to have somebody like you who looks at it like from all these different aspects, oh my gosh. I mean, that just sounds so lovely.
Yeah, and it's really what's needed for that. It's funny you mentioned perimenopause because I just gave a talk at my gym yesterday on perimenopause along with a strength coach. It was really a lot of fun because that's one of the things you can do in perimenopause is work on your strength. But it really, unfortunately, also so many people go to their doctor with exactly what you're talking about, and they're told it's just normal getting older, or your labs are normal, there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, there's like an incredible amount of gaslighting that goes on, frankly, because of a lack of education about perimenopause and menopause, frankly, in conventional medicine. So, that makes me very sad that happens to a lot of people. But it is true that this comprehensive approach is exactly what works for that kind of thing. I mean, you've got to look at the nutritional piece, the stress management and the sleep piece. What's going on with your muscle? What about supplements? What about potentially HRT? All of these parts are important.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've touched on this a few times. We've had specific hormone specialists on the show before. And I just, at this day and age, time, whatever you want to call it, I feel like if a general practitioner doesn't at least have a good working knowledge of hormones for men and for women, like they're doing their patients a disservice. Like remember it was like, oh, go see an endocrinologist, right? It was this like specialty thing. And it's really, I mean, I've had personal experience with both my husband and myself having massive hormone imbalances and causing just ridiculous problems that were left undetected for years. And so I feel like just that system alone, there's just so much that needs to be done. And I kind of feel like it's an excuse now for a GP to be like, yeah, no, see your endocrinologist. Like, you have
Well,
to at
and
least
they
have a modicum of understanding about what's going on there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's often the problem is in the training and the education. It's just not the focus. And I mean, not trying to throw out my colleagues under the bus here who are like very well-intentioned doctors. Like it's I wasn't trained in this stuff, you know. It's a problem. And hopefully it's starting to change because there really is a groundswell of like demand for this. Finally, people are like, I'm not putting up with not getting treatment anymore and not having this addressed, but you know, it takes time. So
Yeah, we've been saying that too. Like, our generation is like the first generation that stood up and been like, I call bullshit.
That's exactly right. And it's overdue. And I'm glad to see women standing up for what they need.
So what do you see most commonly in women that come through your door, like the women who are like 45 to like 65? Can you boil it down to a few symptoms, or is there a commonality or anything that you see?
Well, that's a great question. So there are a lot of common symptoms. It's usually a cluster of symptoms. So people will come in with, like you were mentioning, some of the like anxiety, really common, brain fog for sure. Often people are having gut imbalances of some sort, some kind of gut symptom, fatigue on a new level. And these things can really all march together. So that's a pretty common kind of cluster of symptoms, I would say, that I see.
How do you get to the root of what it is? Like, what is it, process, I guess?
There is a process, yes.
Process.
So, yeah, when a patient is ready, comes to me wanting to do the deep dive that I do, it's a really very broad net that we cast. We're looking at, there's a long history taking of like really listening to someone's story and understanding the pieces that have led them here because they know a lot of it. And they also can tell you things that they may not realize are connected, but I can hear the connection. And then there's also, we do broad testing. We have a very large blood panel that covers a lot of things, whether it's from hormones or inflammatory markers or different nutrient markers. We do a urinary organic acids test that tells us a whole lot about different aspects of metabolism and how things are working in the body. Do some genetics testing, also a stool test that tells you about the gut microbiome and digestion. And there's way more we could do, but this gives us a really good starting place to understand where are the imbalances. And that's what we're looking for, is the patterns. And when we start to see, okay, there's a problem with digestion, you're not actually absorbing your food. Like maybe you actually are eating really well, but you are not actually getting it in your system, and that's a problem. And that's going to affect everything downstream, right? So we're looking for where are the patterns, and that's then where we begin to intervene and create a personalized treatment plan that's going to involve nutritional, supports. Maybe there's certain dietary changes they need to make, lifestyle changes like we talked about, whether it's more, improve stress management or, when are they going to bed? What's their light exposure? Are they isolated? You mentioned earlier, like what kind of support people have. That's really important. And what the right supplements are to take and go from there.
Okay, I feel cheated.
Alrighty then.
Because and guess what? I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow with my gynecologist. She's in trouble. Because you have just touched on so many things that nobody's ever asked me.
I know, it shouldn't be like that.
It's so frustrating. So frustrating. So, and I don't even want to go down the insurance. I don't even want to go down the insurance road, but
I'll just sum it up for you that unfortunately insurance is, they call it health care, but it's really sick care. It's like car insurance. It's there for when you crash your car and doesn't pay for your gas or your oil change. And, when you're in real preventative mode or trying to get to root causes, it is not set up for that. And so it doesn't cover the time and the work and the testing that we do. But it really comes down to what people value and what they want to invest in. I think, if you only think I'm only going to do whatever is covered, then you're not going to be able to actually get where you want to go. I think about my training with this. Like I remember when I sort of side story, but when I decided to do this training with the Institute for Functional Medicine, it was an amazing experience. And it was like the best money I'd ever spent to go deeper in the stuff that I was already getting really interested in. to do the initial training course. There were many courses, and I remember talking to a colleague who was interested in doing it. And then I told him the cost of this program. And he's like, oh, my stipend from my employer for paying for, continuing education wouldn't cover that. And I was so confused because I was already an independent contractor. I didn't have an employer with stipends. I was like, do I want to learn this?
Yeah.
Do I want to invest in this? But it was really an interesting mindset thing because I was like, that's what's going to determine whether or not you go learn this valuable information that's going to like totally change how you practice. So it's kind of similar to that. It's like, I mean, obviously, it's difficult because without means, it's very hard to access this kind of care. And that's a real problem. But, people make choices all the time, what they spend their money on. And, if you value your health and you invest in it now, that's going to pay off long term.
Yeah, and I've gone to functional medicine doctors before. The visits are generally covered. Blood tests are generally covered. It's when you do the deep dive testing, like the fecal samples, the food allergy panels, like anything that's not affixed with some kind of a symptom or diagnosis, they're not going to pay for. But I mean, the good news is you're an MD as well. And so typically most insurances will pay for it as an office visit. It's like I said, when it gets a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, I wish that's not most of my patients' experience.
Really?
Actually.
That's really unfortunate.
It really depends on your insurance and it depends on the practitioner too, if they're, what the setup is. But, what's good is there are people doing studies on this approach. And those are hard kind of studies to do because you can't do it as just a randomized, placebo-controlled study because the interventions are personalized. So they're different for each person. But they're set up in a way where you're showing the outcomes for like this kind of approach. What are the symptom reduction rates? What's the cost? And these are showing that this approach is really beneficial. And if we can get more of that kind of research out there, that will impact insurance, I think. And we hopefully over time will see a change.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my midlife reclamation guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers! I am so intrigued about the relationship between your gut and your mental health and other health issues. Can you just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a huge connection. And I think we continue to learn more about how that is connected. So, there's sort of this myth that your brain is sort of sealed up in your head and unrelated to your body somehow. And this is maybe perpetuated by the concept of the blood-brain barrier, like things don't get in. But most people have a leaky blood-brain barrier, especially if they have any kind of gut issues and have a leaky gut. It's the same kind of thing. So the gut there's many, many ways it impacts the brain. First of all, there is the basics of nutrition and digestion. Like if you aren't getting the raw ingredients your brain needs to function because you can't break down the food and actually absorb that vitamin B12 or those amino acids to build those neurotransmitters, it's going to be impacted. That's just very fundamental. But then we've got the microbiome and the bacteria in the gut and what they're producing. We have outsourced a ton of jobs to these bacteria. And if you think in terms of the evolution here, they do a lot of work for us. And if we don't have the right balance of bacteria there, they're not producing the things we need. They may be producing other sort of inflammatory compounds. Those bacteria are communicating with our immune system all the time. And that is going to dictate the level of inflammation in the body. And that's going to impact the neuroinflammation, what's going on in the brain, and how well the brain can work. So right there, that balance of bacteria is very, very important. Now, they also make neurotransmitters, the bacteria do, like GABA, which is the relaxing anti-anxiety neurotransmitter. These things get absorbed into the bloodstream and go to the brain. And then what amazes me is there's also something called chemotaxis, where compounds can actually move up the vagus nerve. That's the longest, cranial nerve in the body, going from the gut up to the brain. So there's many ways that the gut communicates with the brain. And of course, the brain communicates with the gut as well via that vagus nerve that's in charge of digestion and the motility or the movement of the gut as it pushes food through it and releases digestive enzymes. And so there's that aspect of it. So if you're like in fight or flight state and, or you've had a lot of trauma, that whole gut communication might be pretty shut down. The gut might not be working very well because you're not in the rest and digest or parasympathetic state. The vagus nerve is not giving those signals to release those digestive enzymes. And so it has a big impact that way. And so there's just this real bidirectionality, and it's hugely impactful.
I feel like inflammation is a biggie for women in midlife. There's so many things that can be traced back to that. Now, the causes are obviously different, but inflammation is a big freaking deal. The other one I think about is cortisol. All the research is coming out about cortisol now and how, it's not in your mind that you can't lose weight. And it's not about like cutting calories. It's about the fact that your body is just flooded with cortisol unchecked, essentially, which is causing the inflammation, bloody. So would you say that you see a lot of midlife women come in and have questions about that, the cortisol and the inflammation is something that you talk about a lot or not enough, or what would you say?
Yeah, no, those are very central. We test morning cortisol, and sometimes we test the whole cortisol rhythm because cortisol actually changes throughout the day. You're supposed to have a big surge of it right when you wake up, and then it slowly goes down throughout the day. And then you should have melatonin come up at night, and then that goes down, and those trade off. And a lot of people have that rhythm dysregulated in some way, or they don't produce enough. They've got a sort of down-regulated stress response. So the brain is dictating to the adrenal glands how much cortisol to make. And if you're under a lot of stress, you'll make more cortisol for quite a while. And then if it's really ongoing, you might dial the whole thing way down and now be in kind of a burnout state. So it's very important to talk about. And you're right, it connects a lot to like abdominal weight gain. Cortisol will really add to belly fat, and it's impacting your immune function. It has a lot of impacts. So it is important to look at that for sure. And inflammation, as you said, yeah, it's central because it's sort of like the common pathway from which all these different triggers and, toxins, things we're talking about show up as all these different symptoms in different people. So, one person's inflammation manifests differently than another person's, but inflammation is kind of the path through which this is happening.
So knowing that everybody's, journey is kind of different when it comes to the chemistry, what is there a basic thing that you can tell women that, like, yes, if you do this every day, you have a better chance of reducing your inflammation, of improving your gut-brain connection, or like, are there generalities that women can lean on because their doctors aren't talking about this stuff?
Yeah, there's actually a whole huge toolkit. And this is what I meant when I said that the nutrition and lifestyle interventions are some of the most powerful. I mean, yes, we need to fine tune details of this for individuals, but the basics are universal, which is like eating nutrient dense foods. So foods that actually have vitamins and minerals in them and, have good fats. And, this is important. And eating like anti-inflammatory diet. So taking out the foods that are really inflammatory. That's the processed sugars and flours and, the bad fats. Like fried food gets kind of a bad rap because it actually depends on what oil things are fried in. But things fried out in, restaurants and stuff are almost always in bad fats. And so that's going to be very inflammatory as well. So, that's a basic thing right there. If you can eliminate those, you really minimize those inflammatory foods and make sure your foods pack a lot of nutrition, that's going to make a big difference. And the same thing goes with, setting a bedtime and getting to bed on time and getting enough sleep. And I say that understanding that there's like a zillion reasons that midlife women struggle with sleep. But one of them is not prioritizing your sleep, So that part is important. Getting light exposure in the morning, that helps set the circadian rhythm. That helps tell your brain, this is the time we're supposed to release the cortisol. And, not looking at screens right before bed because that's telling your brain it's morning when it's not morning. So these are basic things that, I'm not saying they're all easy to do, but they are doable over time. You baby step your way through these changes. That helps everybody. These are foundational, Same thing goes with movement, exercise, hydration, like we were talking about at the beginning, right? So there is a lot and these aren't like exciting sounding, but they're powerful tools.
And I think I don't want to say easy, but they're simple. Like those are things we
Yeah,
can do. Like we
that's right.
can
Yes.
wrap
And I
our,
see
yeah.
people do them all the time. And yeah, you don't change your whole diet overnight. That's not what you need to do. It's like pick one thing. Say, okay, if I'm drinking all this soda, I'm going to start with the soda, right? Then I'm going to like reduce all these desserts I'm eating. Or, you start adding in, I'm going to add in some additional vegetables every day. Great. Baby step your way until that habit's easy. Then you go to the next thing.
Yeah.
Those add up to be very powerful.
I was just going to say, I think, because I'm not seeing this particular doctor anymore, one of the problems that I had was it was like, you have to do all the things immediately to the nth degree. So it was like, I was literally, I swear to God, getting a tub of supplements ready every week, like an hour of doing that. And like, I had to sleep, has to, like all these things. And it just became overwhelming to me. Like I couldn't sustain it. So I like this idea of, let's talk about a big change, one big change that you can make now that's really going to impact it. Okay, what's the next thing?
Yeah, we're a little change really that'll have a big impact. That's how we try to think about it.
Yeah.
Because we're humans and that's
Yeah.
how we actually successfully make change,
Well, it's what I tell my clients. Baby steps are still steps.
Yeah, and I think they're the ones that stick. So that's why we really think that's important.
Yeah. And I love that you're saying that. I'm going to, piggyback on what Lisa said, because I don't see a lot of the midlife influencers talking about it like this. They don't talk about the small steps. It's like, well, let's just do one thing. Let's just show ourselves some compassion and let's just focus on what's doable and one thing we can be successful at. And then we'll go to the next thing and then the next thing. Yes.
Yeah. The other thing I think of is this whole persistent thing about getting foggy brain with menopause, right? Like, not to say that isn't the case, but we're also doing a lot of freaking shit. And we are really busy and we are overwhelmed and overscheduled and under self-cared. And I don't feel like people pay enough attention to the fact that is a huge thing. Like I'm sitting here right now drinking my tea, trying to be in this conversation after like a crazy long day at work, like my daughter freaking out in the next room. And my story is not unique at all. And
yeah,
so
that's life, right?
Right? And so I think that's what's hard. In my story about the bucket full of supplements, I think rings true for a lot of women because they're just like, I don't want to know. Like, I can't do this whole big thing. It's overwhelming for me. I can't do it. So I really like this idea of just starting with the simple change and going from there. So a patient comes, so talk a little bit about the patient journey, right? So you've talked about like the initial intake and kind of what you do and what you assess. Give us some tip, and I get it that everybody's individual, but typically kind of what do you start people out doing? What do you see the most often that like people start to make changes with?
Well, the way I work with patients is in a program, a comprehensive program, because that works much better than just one-off appointments because people aren't committed when they do that. And it turns out you need to commit to yourself to get progress. And so when you decide, I'm doing this thing, I'm made this decision, I'm going to work with this doctor for 6 months and doing this complete package, this makes a huge difference. And so we begin with appointments with our nutritionist and health coach, and meeting them where they're at. What's the next step we need to take to help them? Where do we think they're going to get the highest yield? Like which intervention is going to make the biggest difference? Like, do they have big blood sugar problems, or is it more like autoimmunity that they're dealing with? Like this matters for their recommendations. And then they're having their physician appointments where we're looking at their history, like I said, going over labs. Then I am recommending the key supplements that are going to make a difference. And we have some additional sort of unique tools in our practice. We do something called autonomic response testing, which is a bioenergetic type of testing, which is a way to really personalize things even further, which I love. And we are, going through the journey with them of like, okay, what do we need to address first? We work on that for a while, and we're peeling layers of the onion is what I always say, because people didn't get here overnight. And what needs to be done first, and then what's next? How much progress have we made? What do we retest? So it's just like a layered sort of approach.
given that your work relies on supplements, not solely on supplements, but that there's
No, but they are an important piece.
Yeah. What, other than the big ones that we always all know about, calcium and a multivitamin, what is one supplement that you feel like almost every midlife woman should be on that like nobody talks about?
Well, I don't know if nobody talks about it, but
No.
like the first one that comes to mind is magnesium.
Okay.
Because honestly, everybody's low in it just about. And the form I really find the most useful, and there's a lot of forms of magnesium and they all have their place, but magnesium glycinate or glycinate, depending on how you say it, is really wonderful because it's going to be great at helping reduce anxiety, not just the magnesium in it, but the glycine in it. And it's great for supporting sleep. You need magnesium for over 300 biochemical pathways in the body. It's very, very important, and people are low in it. So it's going to make you less sore after workouts. It's going to decrease your headaches. Like it does so much. And I always hear amazing stories about magnesium. People are like, oh yeah, totally got rid of my headaches, or totally, now I sleep like a baby. And it's not enough for everybody's sleep problems, but for some people, that's all they need to change. So
And
it's a powerful one.
What form? Is it just like a supplement? Because I've heard like there's the stuff you can spray on your feet. Like there's all sorts of ways to do it.
Yeah, this is an oral form, magnesium glycinate, like either a powder or a capsule. Yeah, there are magnesium sprays, and there's also, Epsom salt baths. It's another way to get magnesium. I think it's pretty hard with a spray to get a high enough dose.
Okay. That was going to be my question. Because I've heard it recommended, like before you go to bed, like it's a magnesium glycinate, I'm butchering that spray, and you spray it on your feet and you rub it in, and because it travels through the body while you sleep, I guess.
Stress reducing, like some witch doctor stuff.
I'm saying, I promise you.
Spray it on.
I mean, I doubt that's going to hurt, but usually people need a fair amount. So I don't think the topical is as great for that.
So women, I think, well, maybe this is a huge generalization. In my experience, midlife women are really good at just putting their head down, powering through, doing all the things, and maybe ignoring, and maybe they're not huge symptoms. Maybe they're small, but they're just not paying attention to them. What would you suggest? And I know we have listeners out there that are listening right now who are doing this exact thing. So what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, the analogy is the airplane one where you got to put your oxygen mask on before you put it on your kid, right? Everyone would think, I got to save my kid. But it's like if you pass out, you won't be able to put it on their kid. So you have to put it on yourself first. And that's what's going on is like the wheels can come off the cart here if you don't take care of yourself. So yeah, women are always putting themselves last, and it's a societal problem. I mean, it is not good because it means that we're not showing up our best for these people that we are actually trying to help the most. We're also depriving ourselves of a lot of joy, I think. And so, but I will say too that I think we're kind of conditioned to tune out of our body. And that's one of the things I see people do when we're working together is they start to learn to listen more to what's going on and to pay attention to how things are landing or, how they're responding to something. And that is very important to learn to tune back in and to listen because truly to take care of your nervous system every day, you have to kind of understand. For example, I like to work out, right? But there's days that make sense to go hard at the gym and days that don't. And that might be like, I didn't sleep well last night, or there's like all this stress going on, or I'm kind of sick right now. Like being aware and tuning in and adjusting, that is a really important life skill. So I would say, first of all, it's pretty natural that people tune out because I think we're trained to do it. But it's really important to try to change that. And, you're not just taking care of yourself. It's not selfish to do this. It's the opposite, actually. This is how you can show up and continue to show up for the people you love and care about and be around long term and be functioning and feeling good to do that.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. It's like I have grandkids. I have 2 more on the way, and it's like I want to be strong. I want to have stamina. I want to be able to pick them up. I want to be able to run with them. So that's like my motivation now.
I love that.
Which has changed because in my 40s, I'm like, oh, I want to be, and I mean, I've always just wanted to be strong, but it's like, it was different then. It's like, oh, I want to look good. I want to look better. I want to fit in my jeans. I wanted to, and that's great too. But now it's like longevity and it's enjoying the and being healthy the years I'm here.
Yeah, that's a great shift, from the how do I look? Of course, we'll care about that. But to like, actually, I want to be strong. That's going to serve you so well. That's going to protect your brain, to keep that muscle mass up and to be functional like that. That's just a wonderful shift to have experienced.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Coricella McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. And I'm beyond excited to tell you about my membership for maxed out mamas just like me, the Empowered Parent Collective. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together. So not that Karen and I aren't using this as our own personal health coach session, but I'm going to take the host prerogative here. So one of the things I struggle with vitamins and supplements is my stomach gets upset really easily when I take them, any kind of vitamin or anything. So I have to end up taking them like after I eat or a little bit later. And then I forget. So it all goes horribly wrong after that. So any hacks or suggestions on that? I really struggle, and it's so frustrating because I know I should be taking more and I just can't.
Well, let me say there's a couple things that come to mind. First of all, one thing I find is that some people really do struggle with taking vitamins that they think they need to take when they're not sure if it's what they need. And that's, some people come to me like, well, I want to do your program, but I'm nervous about whether or not I'll be able to stick with the plan, And what I've seen is like when you know why you're supposed to do this, and we saw this on your labs, we see this on your testing, this is what you need, that does change that aspect, because you're like really clear on what you're doing. And it's also like, it's not this for the rest of your life. Like this is a project we're doing right now to fix some deficiencies or, to affect your immune system. So that helps, that purpose and clarity. That's the first thing. The second thing is you need systems. I use a big pill organizer for my vitamins. I fill it up once a week and it's all in there. And in the morning when I'm getting ready, I have some things I take on an empty stomach. I do those right away. But then I get the pill box out. And then, I'm doing whatever. I'm making school lunches, right? And I'm like doing the dishes and I'm making breakfast for my kids. But when I finally eat, then I take them and they're in the box right there. And I know, I look, well, Monday is still there. So I didn't take it yet, and then later it's like, okay, I took it. You have that reference. The pill box really good that way because you don't wonder, did I do it? And it's easy. I'm not opening a bunch of bottles because it's all already in the container. This is simple, but it makes an enormous difference. And I'm always amazed at how many people don't utilize like a pill organizer. So that's important. And I think it's really normal to need to eat first before you take a bunch of these things. Unless it specifies that it's on an empty stomach, I would always just recommend that because when you take a bunch of things, it doesn't feel good on an empty stomach.
Okay, I was just chuckling to myself right there because I really felt like my 85-year-old dad in that moment because when you were talking about the pill box, I'm like, because what do we think of when we think of that pill box? We think of our parents.
Yeah, and we got to shift that, frankly.
Totally.
And I have a huge one because there's a lot of things I like to take, and I'm like, I don't want this tiny little thing that holds 2 tiny little pills. Like, that's not going to work for me. We are all about like what really works and, whatever system. And also like keep things where you need them when you take them. Like if this is a thing that's at bedtime, maybe it should be in the bathroom. If it's the thing you take the first second you wake up, maybe you should put it on the nightstand with a water bottle or does it need to sit on the, if it's digestive enzymes with every meal, maybe it just needs to sit on the table. Think about how you really do things, right? And make it work with your life.
Yeah, so I've got 2 neurodivergent kiddos and a husband that's disabled. And one of the things that's been a game changer for us are the pill wheels. Because we're trying to help the kids be more independent in taking their meds. And there's a lot of meds everybody has to take. So it's annoying. We're all just like, went off again. But like you said, it helps make sure that the kids have taken them, and you can, if you forget, you can look and see whether you have or not. So that's
Yeah,
been really
it's all
helpful.
about systems, right? I think we need to lean into systems so that we can not have to put our, valuable brain energy into that.
Mhm. Yep.
And then it
I
makes
wanna
it
say
easier to remember.
Yeah, exactly, and I just wanna circle back to one thing you were saying about menopause and the brain fog, but the stress that we're under, and I really thought that was an important point because as much as hormones have been, like, d you know, appreciated by doctors, and, like, there's a lack of awareness about that, and people are now like, "Menopause and perimenopause, this is, like, what's going on." It is all those other things, and it's like the hormones provide a buffer, and as that wanes, our stress management becomes way more important. The answer isn't just take hormones. You have to do exactly what you're talking about, which is look at how you're managing your stress. Are you getting enough sleep? It's all of that together. They're really, really important.
How do women who have been operating at this pace for decades, how do they do that? Because I feel like they get to their 40s and 50s, and what would you say would be one step that they could take that could help them just kind of unhook from all of the invisible emotional labor that they do, the people pleasing that goes on, the sacrificing that women, and especially if their parents do, like what would be an easy way for them to just start of maybe even looking at it? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, that's a great question. I feel like most people realize it when something goes wrong. Like, it takes something happening to their health or to really wake up to that. But I think, it's about what you surround yourself with. Like people listening to your podcast are hearing this, right? So that's good. They're starting to think about, oh, is this a thing in my life? Like, do I need to pay attention to this? I mean, some people are going to block it out and they're never going to want to hear it. But, do you have, friends in your life that are also on this journey that where you can talk about these things for real, and I would say for a lot of women, maybe you need to start with just carving out one thing for you, even if you're not kind of aware of all this, like have that time that you work out or that time that you take a walk or the whatever it is that begins to open up a little space, a little breathing room, a little time away from all of that where you can start to notice the contrast of how you feel in those two situations, whether when you're in the thick of all the work and the family stuff and when you're not, and to see that, to notice how that feels and how to cultivate a bit more of that and bring that into the everyday. That's what I would recommend.
I love that because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, what would you wish that, women were talking to their girlfriends about, and that's why Lisa and I started this podcast, because we wanted to start shining a light on the things that women aren't necessarily talking about. And we wanted, them to feel like this is a safe place that they can start talking about that. So
Yeah.
I just love that you brought that up, because I think that's where it's at. Like, because we feel like we're the only one.
Yeah, I have to say, yeah, I mean, having good girlfriends where you can be real is a game changer. I mean, I feel super grateful that I have that, and people talk about their challenges and it's not about how we appear to each other. It's about like, oh, we're all in this together, and it's just an amazing resource. It like lifts us all up on our, big text thread that we're on, and there's so much laughter on there, and it's like that is important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think by the time you get to this age, you're not unscathed. You have gone through battles, and you have to let it go. You have to talk about it. You have to cry. You have to scream and laugh, and you have to do all the things. And our partners are great to an extent, but I agree wholeheartedly. Like even just one or two friends that you
Yes.
can be yourself with. I think that's the best medicine that there is.
And I think that's how we evolved. We were supposed to be in tribes. We were not alone on a desert island with our spouse. It's like that's not reasonable that one person's going to fulfill all your needs. And I think, we need other women, we need we need friends.
Agreed. So we talk a lot on this podcast about reinventions, and a lot of times they are not chosen reinventions. A lot of times we're having to pivot because life hands us a sandwich, right? So how would you say that these reinventions play into all of the stuff that's going on for us in terms of our nervous system and our cortisol and just like trying to get through life?
Well, I guess I would say your mindset is huge with this because if you're, a reinvention is sort of foisted on you, you can decide whether you're like a victim about that or you can decide it's an opportunity for growth and transformation. And I think that how you're talking to yourself about that is going to have a huge impact on, believe it or not, your whole physiology. Because if you're feeling trapped and stuck and unhappy about that, like that's going to make you sick. And if you can be like, okay, this is hard and not what I asked for, but something interesting is going to come out of this. I'm going to grow. I'm going to learn. I'm going to become more resourceful. And then you can say, well, look at what I've accomplished. I figured this out. I met these people. I learned this. I've grown in this way. That's a very different experience in your nervous system.
So, yeah. So, what is that correlation between healing our body and that emotional piece, like the emotional resilience? Because I'm thinking when we go through the shitstorms of life, right, we're going through these reinventions and we are not regulated at all. If our body is in sync, like if we have that gut biome that you were talking about, right, and our inflammation and stuff, if that stuff is in check, does that make it, I mean, it seems like a rhetorical question, but does that make it easier in order to deal with the curveballs that life throws at us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that all impacts your resilience, right? And I think things like anxiety, it's like situations can make you anxious, but how vulnerable you are to becoming anxious in those different situations can vary based on, the state of your body and your brain and your health. Like, there's a lot of factors in that, but if you are, for example, like if you're on magnesium and you've got a healthy microbiome and these things that are going to like decrease the odds of that happening, things won't hit you as hard. You'll be able to bounce back better. You won't get as derailed.
So I think circling back to what you were talking about in terms of the work you do, it's like investing in yourself
Yes.
and it's like building yourself up so you're ready because life's going to throw you those curveballs. Nobody's immune, and so they're coming. It's just a matter of when. So when you're physically and emotionally ready, it's easier to deal with that.
No, that's totally true. And I'm sure you experienced that, when you were talking about being strong, and being able to lift up your grandkids and stuff. I mean, just, when you are strong like that, you don't get injured as much. You're able to, weather more things. Like you have a reserve there. And so I think that's very true. And I think it's not only just about taking care of yourself now to be ready for what comes, but I think also people have a lot of stuff going on that they don't even realize is going on. And they may just accept it as normal. Just because something's common, by the way, does not mean it's normal. And so, that when you start to do this kind of work on your health, you can be very surprised by things that shift. I'm like, I didn't even realize that I had that, skin thing until it cleared up. And then I was like, oh, I feel better. And just so many things I hear people say that kind of thing all the time. And so it, I think it's a little harder for people to motivate for prevention. It's always easier if you're suffering, like to be motivated, but everybody's motivation looks different. But I would say that like you do that work, you'll be surprised by some of the changes you'll experience now.
I think that is so important. What did you say? Just because it's common, it's not normal? Is that what you said?
I mean,
because I think about myself and it's like I've had this back thing. And like Lisa said, not to like hijack this for our own personal
But
gain.
while you're here,
But it's like, it has literally become normal. And because it's not bad enough that it like takes me out of the game, but it's just really kind of annoying. And it's like, I know I need to get it fixed, but I've mentioned it to my general doctor and he's just kind of like, meh, do some stretching. Right. So I'm like, okay. But I think that's true. It's like we just have these things that happen and they start to just become how we feel. And then we think in our mind, oh, it's normal, but it's not.
No. And I think there's a lot of things along those lines, like people will say that's just aging. That's just, or like women are told, well, that's just because you had a baby, and I hate that stuff. It's like, no, actually, yeah, these things become more common with aging, but why is it actually happening? It's this inflammation, there's causes. I mean, I just remember when I first really just first got interested in nutrition and went down the rabbit hole, and I was just started to eat a little different, and I was like, "Oh, I don't have to, like, unbutton my jeans after I eat," like, because I was, like, bloated every time I ate, but I didn't even realize it. It was like I just accepted it because I'd kind of felt like that for ages, and no, that's actually not normal, but, it's common.
Yeah. I feel like menopause is under that umbrella because for so long, women were just told, oh, that's just the way it is. You know, you're just going to
Mhm.
have to deal with it. That's just the way it is. It's menopause. It's hot flashes. It's whatever. And it was just go deal with it. That's your lot in life. Right. Where, and of course, no research because that's not sexy. Right. But, as Karen
Yeah,
often
it's
says,
terrible.
you get a major problem with men's hard-ons and they're throwing as much money as they possibly can at that to research it. So I do feel like a lot of it has been, well, and we know this, right? We know that female patients are not taken seriously
Nope,
a lot of the
and
times by their doctors to the point where we can point to certain subsets of women, i.e. Black women, are not receiving even a modicum of the kind of care that they should be. Their pain is belittled. They're not taken seriously when they talk about their symptoms.
no, I agree. I mean, and I feel like this is absolutely every every woman patient who comes in the door, it's like they've been dismissed somehow. They're not seen for what's going on, not believed, or, I mean, I always say, like, I'm okay with their primary care, like, not knowing what's going on. I mean, no one
Mhm.
knows everything, that's
Yeah,
fine.
totally.
But it's the, like, disbelieving the patient is the problem.
Yeah.
If they can be humble and say, like, "I hear that you're dealing with this and that sucks, and I'm sorry, I don't know what it is." Great, you were honest and humble, like,
Yep.
that's fine.
Yeah.
But that is not what goes on often, and it's very, very sad and wrong.
And it's dismissive. Like, that's the other
Yes,
thing that drives me
no, they're
crazy. It's like,
dismissed. That's right.
if you don't know how to fix it, that's fine. I'm not sure what to do. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Maybe we can look at this and such and this and such. That's like, but validating the fact that they
Yeah.
feel that way. And I just feel like so many times we're told like it's in your head. Like Karen knows this and the viewers know this, but my husband is disabled and it's taken us almost 20 years to figure out the various things that were going on. And I knew something was wrong almost from the get-go.
Mm,
And I would tell doctors and I would ask questions and just dismissed. And people said, I've told Karen in the podcast, some of the things doctors would say to me to dismiss me and really put me back in my place. I mean, a lot of the comments were very much designed to just be like, stay in your lane kind of thing. And then when finally we got some answers, it was like, oh, that's what I've been saying for years now. Maybe
of
if you
course.
would have frickin' listened to me, right? And my husband is not a good advocate. Well, what man is a good advocate for his own healthcare? But that's a whole other story. But it blows me away that people in the helping, healing professions don't have, in a lot of cases, as their primary objective, helping, healing, recognizing, affirming, like, you are
Yeah,
in the care freaking industry, like basic level of human
yeah.
decency.
I mean, I will say, I just want to say that there are certainly wonderful doctors out there, wonderful primary care
Absolutely.
doctors that my
Absolutely.
patients, sometimes I'm like, I hear stories, I'm like, that's a keeper. You keep that doctor,
Mm-hmm.
but these stories are way too common. And I really think it comes down to just, unfortunately, just the human ego and
Mm-hmm.
just that I think doctors get defensive if they don't. It's actually ironically sometimes because they want to help that when they can't help, they feel, inadequate, the defensive. And so then it becomes like, dismissive. And it's like, if I don't have the tool in my toolbox for that thing, then it's gotta be made up in your head, whatever. It's like they need to look inside a little bit and see what's going on there because that's the root of it, I think.
Well, it's like your colleague who didn't want to pay the extra to learn more and to have a wider umbrella of how can I help more people, right? So I
I'm
think
happy to
it's
say that eventually he did pay and go. I was really
oh
happy to
good.
see that. But yeah, it's that mindset of like, well, that's all I get. It's like, well, yeah, if you can't afford it, that's one thing. But it's like you could.
Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity.
And obviously, fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn.
What is one thing that you really want all women to know? Like, what do you want all women to understand about their brain or their body or the combination?
I guess a couple things. One is everything is connected. That's really important. Just whatever you're doing, whatever you're feeling in your body, and your body and brain is connected. What you're doing, putting in your mouth all the time is connected to how you feel. What your thoughts are connected to what's going on in your physiology. So really understand that web, that interconnectedness. And then just to know that you can do something about how you feel, to be empowered. And that doesn't mean that means if you're not feeling good, it's because you're screwing up and you're failing at it. That's not what I'm saying. But that you aren't just, helpless or powerless around these things. There's so much that you can do, and don't put it on yourself to figure that all out at once and do it all at once. No way. But stay hopeful and stay curious and baby step your way forward. That's more than one thing.
That.
Sorry. That's what I would like to
Oh,
to
I
know.
love it. Bring it on. Bring it on. But I really love what you just said. Baby step your way forward. What is it? We had a guest on and she called it Sue Willoughby.
Oh my God, turtle steps. That was the best thing ever.
Steps. And she does Equus coaching, which is totally unrelated. But yeah, it was the same theme, right? It's like baby step your way forward, turtle step your way forward. However you get there, it doesn't matter. Just get there.
Yeah, but I like the way she made the point that she doesn't call it baby steps because turtles are slow, but they're deliberate. And they get where they're going eventually. So you're not just like, woohoo, whatever. You're taking a deliberate step in the right direction.
As someone who actually had turtles as pets growing up, I can really imagine what you're talking about there. And very deliberate. I remember I used to sort of take my turtle and like move her, and she just back, determinedly going in this one direction, and you're right. Very deliberate.
What kind of turtles did you have? Did you have the big
box turtles?
Ones, or oh my God, they're so cute. We have a red ear slider right now.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we couldn't have anything with fur in my house growing up due to my dad's allergies, so it was turtles.
We love to leave our listeners with some takeaways. So even if they walk away with just one thing or one little action step they can do today that'll improve their life, what is one thing that women could do to improve their mood?
Yeah, one thing comes to mind right away because we didn't talk about this, and this is a fundamental nutritional thing, but it's huge, which is omega-3 fats. So these are found in certain fish, and they're found in a lot of fish, not every fish, but you also want to pick fish that are low in mercury. So the way you would get this in your diet would be wild-caught salmon, sardines, and then things that I feel like nobody eats, like mackerel. That's another source. And then, most people don't want to eat sardines either. But I'm telling you and sardines are like nature's multivitamin. I mean, really good for you. And
side note, do you eat sardines?
Sometimes.
How do you eat them? Like, tell me. I would love to eat them, but I just
No, it's
don't.
so funny you should say this, because when I got really interested in nutrition, I started buying all these sardines. I just kept buying them and not eating them. I had this whole stack. And finally, this good friend of mine was like, "Would you like me to eat it with you?" I was like,
yes, please.
Like, sit down. And what's so funny is the first ones I started with were ones that like had mustard in them, and that made it doable. But what's so silly is you could just put mustard on them. Like, you don't have to have it in the can. I don't know. It was the funniest thing. But I'll tell you, like, you can make like a tuna salad, but with sardines instead, for example. It tastes very similar. You could add capers or, and put mayo in there or lemon or, and people put them on salads. You can obviously put it on like toast or something. So there are ways to make it good. But if you don't like that, that's fine. You can take fish oil, but you need to take a high quality fish oil and make sure that it's actually high in the two omega-3 fats that are so important, which is EPA and DHA. Those are really critical because the low quality fish oils won't have very much of either of those in them. And
So what are the numbers we should be looking for with those?
I mean, so the studies on mood are multiple grams of these. And I would say the kind of most common dose I'm recommending to patients is like 2 grams of EPA and DHA. So for a really high quality fish oil, they're very large, soft gels, capsules, but each one of those will have 1 gram. So it's usually like 2 of those capsules. There are some great liquid options now. I'll just tell you, the first few I had ever tried from some of these companies was disgusting. Like, this is like a gross fish. They called it a smoothie. I'm like, this is terrible.
Ew, a fish
But
smoothie? That's nasty.
there is, gross, exactly. But there is a company, I don't know if I can share the name.
Absolutely.
It's called Barlean's, and they make they make a bunch of different like liquid fish oils. And I like their high potency ones because those are the doses I want to use. Those actually taste good. They have like a passion pineapple one and like a key lime one, and I'm amazed. They
Go
do
figure.
actually taste good. But normally we're using soft gels that's what I do. My kids are on a smaller one, I like these a lot. They're easy to take. And you take them with food because you're trying to digest fats, and so you need those digestive enzymes there. But there's tons of research on omega-3 and mood. And the reason that works is they're anti-inflammatory, direct anti-inflammatory signalers. And we know that a lot of depression is inflammation driven. In fact, when people take an SSRI medication like Prozac, and if they respond to it, the certain inflammatory markers have actually decreased. So there's something going on there with inflammation when they take the medication, inflammation going down. It's the same way that the gut microbiome impacts mood. It's like whatever's decreasing inflammation and neuroinflammation is going to help. So omega-3s are powerful. They're great if you have joint pain, and all kinds of inflammation. They're so useful, and most people don't have enough at all. And so that's a really powerful intervention.
What about
And
anchovies?
again,
Same
easy.
thing? Because anchovies are good.
Yeah, anchovies have some omega-3s. They're just tiny, so
Yeah.
it's like,
Well, I mean, I'm Italian and we use them in a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
And what I like about it is that you can basically melt them into pasta and it just gives it like a nice savory. Oh,
salty
I know it
umami.
sounds gross, but it's like a very salty umami. I promise you, if I made it for you, you would not know the
I believe you.
difference.
I mean, they're one of those really great sources of umami, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
for cooking reasons, it makes sense.
All right, Chatafian, you have to give me some credit here.
No, girl, you come make me dinner. I will not make a face at all. Totally fine. But I have one more. I want to get on to the next one, but I have one question. You talked about high quality fish oil. Okay, how do we know if because I'm thinking the Nature Made you buy at CVS. How do you know if it's high quality?
Yeah, well, it's to do with kind of their degree of testing and third-party testing. So there are a number of brands that I feel confident about with their omega-3s. A lot of these are more like practitioner focused brands, but one that's really readily available out there is Nordic Naturals. That's a good brand. And it has to stay cool and not be old. Fats get rancid, so you got to take care of it.
Rancid fish oil. Delish.
But you'd be amazed like how many people are cooking with rancid canola oil. I mean, they shouldn't have canola oil at all, actually. But these are fragile. Those kind of vegetable oils. It's part of why they're so bad for you. And they are rancid without people ever noticing it. So it's a common problem. The omega-3 fats are fragile as well. So that's why you got to use them up in a timely way and don't let them get hot.
Okay. All right. So we're taking our high quality fish oil. What about one thing that supports hormone balance immediately?
Maybe fiber. I mean, there's a lot of things that will make a difference, but the gut microbiome has a huge impact on detoxifying estrogen. So, and a lot of women have, especially in perimenopause, may have an imbalance with their estrogen compared to their progesterone. The progesterone starts to wane earlier. The estrogen get pretty high sometimes during perimenopause. And so you've got to move it out of the body in a timely way. You've got to metabolize it. And the bacteria play a role in this. So you want to have the good bacteria present in the right amounts, and fiber is what feeds them. And so having, a good amount. Most people aren't eating enough fiber. So increasing fiber can help with removing estrogens that need to go.
Okay. 3 easy ways to get more fiber.
Go.
Well, upping your 3 is a good question. I mean, upping your vegetable intake is important. We really like to have a lot of fiber from vegetables. I will say too that it's not just fiber that feeds the microbiome, but the phytonutrients. So the colors in colorful vegetables, those actually help fuel the bacteria as well. So eating the rainbow, I would say, not Skittles rainbow, but the vegetable rainbow is really important. Go for different colors. Those are good. And then you can do things like incorporate like chia or flax or, and beans can have a lot of fiber. There's, but it's about whole real foods,
What is something that women should stop doing? Like, what is one thing that they're doing that's making things worse?
Putting tons of terrible compounds on their body, chemicals. That really messes up hormones bad. Stop wearing perfume. That's what I would say. Wear essential oils are a great option, but I'm telling you, these are hormone disrupting chemicals. And, women put like over 100 chemicals on their body every day.
Yep.
There's a huge like clean beauty movement now. We're really lucky. Like 10 years ago, it was much harder to find clean products. But like be aware and conscious and limit what you're using and make sure these things are good for you. And there's some great tools out there now to support this. I mean, the Environmental Working Group has a database called the Skin Deep database where you can look things up and see. And then there's an app called Yuka, Yuka, that is a nice way you can like scan barcodes and see what's in things. But just that awareness, because I mean, it really upsets me. Like I have a teenage son and I see these friends and I think, my God, they're all using these like horrible products that are just messing their hormones up. It really upsets me. Yep. He knows that he will never like no cologne for you, but
I will not be buying you that.
He does really well because he's heard me talk about this stuff so long, and so we figure it out. And
that's so great.
But I think that is like, to me, it's crazy. People are just poisoning themselves.
No, it's one of the reasons I started repping a brand called Arbonne, because there's 2,000, the standard of the ingredients is even higher than like the limits that the EU has. I think we ban like 11 chemicals over here, something ridiculous. Maybe it's 13 now. Woohoo! But they have pledged not to formulate with over 2,000 harmful ingredients. So I know whatever I put on my skin or my hair, and that's the other thing I love is people go, well, I'm just putting on my hands. It's like, do you know how long it takes for that to be absorbed into your bloodstream? It's like less than a minute.
Yeah.
And don't they say your skin is the biggest organ you have or something like that?
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, so there's that. But I want to shout out that app, Yuka, that you mentioned, because and you can put food in there. You can put, skincare, anything, and it'll give you like green, thumbs up, or yellow or red. Like, no way, Jose, stay away from that. So,
yeah, it's easy to use.
Yeah.
So where can our people find you, Dr. McCarthy?
Yeah, so my website is drtracymccarthy.com. And that, for people who are interested in becoming a patient, that I can see people who are California residents. And then I also have an online program called The Natural Mood Solution, which is about a lot of things we've been talking about today, but going way deeper about what you can do to feel better. That's an online course. So it's you can do it on your own. You can be anywhere and do it. It's a really great starting place if a lot of this stuff is new to you and you haven't worked with someone before or something. It's a really great place to begin.
So your website is where you want everybody to go and find you. Do you have any social media accounts? Are you active anywhere else?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Dr. Tracy McCarthy. That's probably the best place. Facebook as well. Yeah, and we have a new root cause health quiz that we're excited about that'll be out there on our social media, and that's another really good place to begin.
We'll have all that in the show notes. And I just want to thank you so much for coming and chatting with us. I have loved this conversation and we could keep it going. In fact, we might have you back because I just think there's so much more we can talk about. And I know our listeners are going to walk away from this with at least one, but probably 10 things that they didn't know before, because I know I am. So thank you so much, Dr. McCarthy. Appreciate you. And listeners, we appreciate you as well.
Like, share, subscribe, join the Pod Squad. And we send you the show notes and all sorts of good stuff right to your inbox. You can forward it to people, but subscribe to the Pod Squad.
And also keep those 5-star reviews coming. I know you guys are loving us, but just put it out there so your sisters, your girlfriends, your neighbors, the women in your life can get the good information that we're spilling here on Drinks with the Girls. So
all the things.
Wrap it up. Thank you, Dr. McCarthy, and we'll say cheers. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you so much for having me.